All right, welcome back to the Amato Report. ICE is in the news, obviously. We're seeing organized, violent protests in the streets, and we're seeing violence occur, some would say on behalf of ICE, depending upon which news outlet is reporting the story. Um, Either way, I got to believe that, in my personal opinion, the protests we're seeing is creating dangerous situations that are unnecessary. That's just me. Now, let's welcome someone who's covering the story. She's the online opinion editor of the Washington Times, frequent guest on the show. Let's welcome back Cheryl Chumley. Cheryl, good to see you. What's going on with these ICE protests?
Well, I agree with what you were just saying, that they're generated by the protesters, and the violence comes because ICE is responding to the protesters. And
Yeah.
if you look at some of the videos, it's the protesters who are really pushing at ICE. They're doing things like that Alex Preddy, who was tragically shot and killed. If you look at the video from a few days before he was shot and killed, though, he kicked out the taillight of one of the ICE government vehicles. So these aren't just simply, people walking through the streets and peacefully blowing their whistles and allowing ICE to do their duly appointed missions. They're actually actively trying to agitate ICE, and they're doing it to get video so they can show that ICE doesn't belong in these communities.
I don't know if you're following what I'm about to bring up, but it sure, from what I'm observing, the gay and lesbian community here in San Diego and across America seems to be very much proactively involved in these ICE protests. They seem to be very organized. And I scratched my head, asked myself, why? What's going on there? And it seems like there's a bigger umbrella over that has organized this group. Anything you can share on that?
So that's really interesting, right? Because we also see like the LGBTQ crowd joining forces with the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas crowd, which are the very type of people who would behead them or throw them off buildings if they lived over in those countries that are run by radical
Good point.
Islamism. It's a little bit of an odd partnership here. And really, if you step back and look at what the left really does, though, they create a division between the oppressed and the oppressors, right? And so the oppressed are anybody who are being put in the crosshairs by the so-called oppressors, which are the ones who want to have law and order in this country, constitutional limits, that sort of thing. And so I think the LGBTQ crowd joins with these protesters because they're all part of this same so-called oppressed crowd of people in America, all fighting against the same MAGA oppressors.
Do you think there's someone organizing this from a big picture perspective, calling in community leaders in the LGBTQ community in various regions across the country, which then influences those on Main Street?
I do think there's a top-down sort of call to arms going on here. And probably if you peered back some of the pages of social media, you would see that they all filter back to some sort of, national group, national nonprofit. And then from there,
Right.
the flyers and the calls go out through their various umbrella organizations.
That makes sense completely. Um, you know, Maybe you disagreed. I want to get your opinion on this. After all, you're the opinion editor. uh, ICE needs to remove violent people who are in our country illegally. I have no problem with that. And I believe that is what the Trump administration's mission is. Yeah, there may be others removed who are here illegally, but I think that they're out on the streets. Their mission is to get rid of those brought in by drug cartels, those brought in for sex trafficking, those that have a violent past. But I don't think they are articulating that message clearly enough through the media to the American people. So it looks like more like they're just after everyday people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I think by and large, this administration wants to rid America of the really criminal elements of illegals, right? But what happens is when they go into those communities to root out the criminal element, you get a whole bunch of other people that jump into the fray and try and resist ICE. So of course, as law enforcement officers on the scene, they're going to have to address those violent protesters as well. I do think, though, that the focus here, and Tom Homan articulated this pretty well when he first went to Minneapolis, the focus is to get the really criminal elements, the rapists, the murderers, all the ones that are really dangerous to society, to go after those first. But to this administration's credit, they try to message that, but the media just, the media is really worse than the Democrat Party, or at least in partnership with the Democrat Party, trying to convolute those messages.
Oh, I agree. I agree. It's one thing to try and it's one thing to try and get the message out. It's another thing for that message to actually get out.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. What do you think of Tom Homan going now being in power, not in power, but in authority? Good move, bad move? No, just no difference.
Okay, so just as a short answer, I think it was a good move. But more than that, I think it was a strategic move because you had Kristi Noem going in, and it was sort of take no prisoners approach. And then, as a sort of concession to the Democrats in Minneapolis and on Capitol Hill, and to the protesters, he removed Kristi Noem from that state, but brought in Tom Homan, who really hasn't changed the tactics of this administration. But it looks, if you're a Democrat official in Minneapolis, it looks like you sort of scored a win with Donald Trump, and that gets you to the table to cooperate with Tom Homan, which the end result is to get their own law enforcement to, cooperate with ICE anyhow.
Wow, I think that's very great observation, Cheryl Chumley.
Thank
And
you,
I,
Brian.
and
Yes.
I agree with what you said as well. Um, do you think we'll ever see local law enforcement get involved on a credible level in Minneapolis?
To some degree, to some extent, they already are, but I only think they are right now because the eyes of the nation is on them. And you have, as I said, Tom Homan there, sort of acting like he's striking a partnership and cooperation with them. So Democrats can't afford to be caught on tape right now resisting everything, right? When they won Tom Homan, when they won getting rid of Kristi Noem. But look, this is a campaign issue for Democrats. It's a fundraising issue for Democrats to resist ICE. So as soon as they're able, they're going to launch protests again.
Again, good observation and comment. And again, these last 2 points you've made about Thomas Homan and uh, Democrats trying to raise money and get elected, these are agendas not being communicated by the mainstream media.
Right.
And they're so important because they're real and they're true and they're affecting things. So I appreciate you bringing those up. Cheryl, any final comments?
Just, this administration is really realizing its campaign promises. And as American citizens, this is why we elected Donald Trump to bring law and order and common sense border security to America. And he's doing it.
All right. Cheryl Chumley, online opinion editor of the Washington Times. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you so much.
Back with more after this.